Hello, dear viewers. Today we will take you on an in-depth journey through the history of Israel. From ancient times to the present day, this story is complex and intriguing, with its ups and downs, conflicts, and hopes. Let's begin. The story of Israel actually goes back to the earliest pages of human history. But let us start from a more recent history, approximately 4,000 years ago. In the 2000s BC, Hebrew tribes from Mesopotamia began to settle in what is now Israel. The most important of these tribes was the group led by Abraham, who is considered the founder of the Jewish religion. The 12 tribes descended from the 12 sons of Jacob, Abraham's grandson, formed the community known as the Israelites. At this time, the region known as Canaan was divided between various city-states and small kingdoms. While the Hebrews were trying to preserve their identity and beliefs in this complex political environment, they were also experiencing the transition to settled life. The transition from a nomadic shepherd culture to an agricultural society profoundly affected the social and economic structure of Hebrew society. However, the famine in 1200 BC caused the Israelites to migrate to Egypt. Here, they gradually became slaves and lived in Egypt for about 400 years. During this time, the Hebrews were influenced by Egyptian culture, but they also managed to preserve their own identity and beliefs. In the 13th century BC, with the Exodus led by Moses, the Israelites left Egypt and returned to the promised land of Canaan. This journey has a very important place in Jewish history and faith. During the 40-year period in the Sinai Desert, important events took place, such as Moses receiving the Ten Commandments and laying the foundations of Jewish law. When the land of Canaan was reached, the Israelites fought long wars to conquer the land. This period is referred to in the Bible as the period of the Judges and lasted about 200 years. During this period, Israelite society was organized as a loose confederation of tribes, ruled by charismatic leaders, judges, who emerged from time to time. Around 1000 BC, during the reign of King David, the Kingdom of Israel was established. David united the scattered Hebrew tribes into a powerful kingdom, with Jerusalem as its capital. During the reign of David's son Solomon, the kingdom enjoyed its heyday, and the famous Temple of Solomon was built. This temple played a central role in the Jewish faith and was a symbol of the kingdom's power and wealth. Solomon's reign is considered the golden age of the Kingdom of Israel. During this period, the kingdom made great strides in trade, established diplomatic relations with neighboring countries, and prospered culturally. However, this period of prosperity also led to discontent among the people due to heavy taxes and forced labor. After Solomon's death, the kingdom was divided into two: the Kingdom of Israel in the north and the Kingdom of Judah in the south. This division weakened both kingdoms because of internal strife and external pressures. The northern kingdom of Israel, though larger and richer, was weakened by political instability and frequent dynastic changes. The Kingdom of Judah, though smaller, was more stable under the kings of the line of David. During this period, the Hebrew prophetic tradition also emerged. Prophets such as Elijah, Elisha, Amos, and Hosea spoke out against social injustice and urged the people to adhere to the belief in one God. The teachings of these prophets profoundly influenced later Jewish and Christian beliefs. In 722 BC, the Assyrians destroyed the Kingdom of Israel. Realizing that it was unable to resist the powerful armies of the Assyrian Empire, the Kingdom of Israel fell after a long siege. According to Assyrian policy, most of the people of Israel were exiled and replaced by people from other regions. This event gave rise to the legend of the lost 10 tribes. The Kingdom of Judah survived for about 130 years. During this time, strong rulers such as King Hezekiah and King Josiah tried to reform and strengthen the kingdom. However, Judah's position became increasingly difficult in the struggle between the great powers. In 586 BC, the Babylonians destroyed the Kingdom of Judah. The armies of the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem and captured the city after a long resistance. The Temple of Solomon was destroyed, and most of the people of Judah were exiled to Babylon. This event is known in Jewish history as the Babylonian exile, and played an important role in shaping Jewish identity. During the Babylonian exile, Jewish religious and cultural traditions were reshaped. The institution of the synagogue emerged, and the writing of the Torah began. Prophets such as Ezekiel and 2nd Isaiah, who lived during this period, instilled hope in the exiled people and promised a return. In 539 BC, the Persian Emperor Cyrus conquered Babylon and allowed the Jews to return to their homeland. This decision marked a turning point in Jewish history. The returning Jews built the Second Temple and revitalized Jewish religious life. However, this return was short-lived, and the region came under the influence of new powers. In 333 BC, Alexander the Great conquered the region, and the Hellenistic period began. During this period, Greek culture and philosophy profoundly influenced Jewish society. Some Jews embraced Hellenistic culture, while others clung more closely to traditional values. This cultural clash led to the Maccabean Revolt in the 2nd century BC. As a result of the Maccabean Revolt, a short-lived independent Jewish state was established. This state, ruled by the Hashmonite dynasty, survived for about 100 years. However, internal strife and the rise of the Roman Empire brought an end to this independence. In 63 BC, the Roman general Pompeius captured Jerusalem and made the area a province of Rome. Under Roman rule, the Jews enjoyed a certain autonomy, but heavy taxes and the imposition of Roman culture led to discontent. During this period, various Jewish groups emerged: Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, and Zealots. These groups reacted differently to Roman rule and Hellenistic culture. It was also during this period that the foundations of Christianity were laid. In 66 AD, the Jews started a great revolt against Rome. This revolt lasted for 4 years and was eventually crushed by Roman armies. In 70 AD, the Romans captured Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. This was the beginning of the Great Exile, which caused the Jews to be scattered all over the world. The destruction of the temple and the exile left deep traces in Jewish history and faith. Jewish religious practices changed from temple-centered worship to synagogue-based practices. Rabbis compiled important texts, such as the Mishnah and Talmud, to preserve and develop Jewish law and customs. In the following centuries, the region came under Byzantine, Arab, Crusader, Mamluk, and Ottoman rule. During this period, Jews lived in diaspora in various parts of the world, but always retained the hope of returning to Jerusalem and the land of their ancestors. During the Byzantine period, pressure on Jews increased as Christianity became the official religion. Beginning in the 7th century, the Islamic conquest changed the demographic and cultural structure of the region. Jerusalem became a holy city for Muslims. Starting in the 11th century, the Crusades stirred the region again. The Crusaders captured Jerusalem in 1099 and massacred most of the Jewish and Muslim population of the city. The Crusader kingdom survived for nearly 200 years, but was eventually destroyed by Muslim forces. From the 12th to the 16th century, the region was under the control of the Mamluk Sultanate. During this period, although the Jewish population declined, significant Jewish communities continued to exist in cities such as Jerusalem, Safed, and Tiberias. In 1517, the Ottoman Empire conquered the region and ruled for nearly 400 years. Under Ottoman rule, Jews were generally tolerated. In particular, Sephardic Jews, expelled from Spain in 1492, found refuge in Ottoman lands. Towards the end of the 19th century, the Zionist movement emerged under the influence of rising anti-Semitism and nationalism movements in Europe. This movement, which developed under the leadership of Theodor Herzl, advocated the idea of Jews establishing their own state. In his book, The Jewish State, written in 1896, Herzl argued that Jews needed their own country as a safe haven. During this period, Jewish immigration to Palestine began to increase. The first major wave of immigration, the first Aliyah, took place between 1882 and 1903. These immigrants tried to strengthen the Jewish presence in the region by establishing agricultural colonies. In 1897, the first Zionist Congress in Basel officially launched the Zionist movement. The Congress adopted the goal of establishing a legally secured homeland for Jews in Palestine. In the early 20th century, with the weakening of the Ottoman Empire, a new balance of power began to emerge in the region. In 1917, the British took Palestine from the Ottomans and established a mandate administration in the region. With the Balfour Declaration published in the same year, Britain promised the Jews a national home in Palestine. This declaration was seen as a major diplomatic victory for the Zionist movement, but it provoked a backlash from the Arab population in the region, and tensions began to rise. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Jewish immigration continued to increase. During this period, new Jewish cities such as Tel Aviv were founded, Hebrew University opened, and Jewish cultural institutions flourished. However, the growing Jewish population and land acquisitions caused concern and anger among the Arab population. Between 1936 and 1939, Palestinian Arabs launched a major uprising against British rule and Jewish immigration. This uprising was violently suppressed by the British, and thousands of Palestinians lost their lives. The Holocaust during the Second World War further strengthened the idea of establishing a Jewish state. The massacre of approximately 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime reinforced the idea that Jews needed a safe haven. After the war, increased Jewish immigration and conflicts with Arabs put the British in a difficult situation. In 1947, Britain referred the Palestine problem to the United Nations. On 29th of November 1947, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a plan to divide Palestine between Jewish and Arab states. According to the plan, 55% of the Palestinian territory would be given to the Jewish state, 45% to the Arab state, and Jerusalem would have an international status. The Jews accepted the plan, while the Arabs rejected it. Following the adoption of the partition plan, violent clashes broke out between Jews and Arabs. During the Civil War, both sides suffered civilian casualties, and thousands of Palestinians were forced to flee their homes. On 14th of May 1948, at the end of the British Mandate, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the creation of the State of Israel in Tel Aviv. The next day, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq declared war on the newly established State of Israel, thus starting the First Arab-Israeli War. This war is known as the War of Independence in Israeli history, while it is called Nakba, catastrophe, by the Arabs. As a result of the war, Israel captured territories beyond the borders stipulated by the UN. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians became refugees and sought refuge in neighboring Arab countries. This refugee problem became one of the main elements of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that continues to this day. After the war, Israel focused on building its state institutions and developing its economy. In 1950, the Law of Return was passed, granting Israeli citizenship to Jews from all over the world. This law paved the way for a great wave of immigration to the country. The Suez Crisis in 1956 was an important turning point in Israel's regional policies. Upon Egypt's nationalization of the Suez Canal, Israel attacked Egypt together with Britain and France. However, it was forced to withdraw under pressure from the United States and the Soviet Union. Throughout the 1960s, Israel had strained relations with neighboring Arab countries. The Six-Day War, which broke out in 1967, changed the map of the region. Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. This victory proved Israel's military might, but it was also the beginning of new problems as it brought millions of Palestinians living in the occupied territories under its control. The Yom Kippur War, referred to by the Arabs as the Ramadan War, in 1973 came as a great surprise to Israel. In the face of a sudden attack by Egypt and Syria, Israel initially had a difficult time, but eventually emerged victorious. The war shattered the myth of Israel's invincibility and paved the way for peace talks. The visit of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat to Jerusalem in 1977, followed by the signing of the Camp David Accords in 1978, raised hopes for peace in the Middle East. As a result of this agreement, Israel withdrew from Sinai and established diplomatic relations with Egypt. This was the first instance of an Arab country officially recognizing Israel. In the 1980s and 90s, Israel became involved in the civil war in Lebanon. In 1982, it invaded Lebanon and advanced as far as Beirut. This occupation caused controversy within Israel and lasted until 2000. The First Intifada, which began in 1987, was a Palestinian uprising against Israel's policies in the occupied territories. This uprising drew the attention of world public opinion to the Palestinian problem and damaged Israel's image. The Oslo Accords, signed in 1993, initiated a peace process between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. These agreements led to the establishment of the Palestinian Authority and limited autonomy for Palestinians in some occupied territories. However, this process failed to resolve fundamental issues such as settlements, the status of Jerusalem and refugees. In 2000, the Second Intifada brought the Oslo peace process to an end. During this period, Israel started to build a security barrier in the West Bank. While Israel argued that this barrier was for security purposes, the Palestinians and the international community labeled it the separation wall and considered it illegal. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from the Gaza Strip and evacuated Jewish settlements there. However, after Hamas took control of the territory, Israel tightened its blockade of Gaza. Since then, there have been periodic violent clashes between Israel and Gaza. In recent years, Israel has faced many challenges, including concerns over Iran's nuclear program, the effects of the Syrian civil war, rockets fired from Gaza, and settlements in the West Bank. At the same time, normalization agreements signed with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco have strengthened Israel's position in the region. Since its establishment, Israel has made significant achievements in many fields. It has developed agriculture in desert conditions, become one of the world leaders in technology and innovation, built a strong army, and consolidated its democratic institutions. The country's economy is among the world leaders, especially in the high-tech sector. Known as the startup nation, Israel ranks first in the world in the number of startup companies per capita. It has developed significant innovations in areas such as information technologies, biotechnology, medical devices, and clean energy. Israel's defense policy is based on the perception that it is under constant threat. Compulsory military service, a strong defense industry, and advanced missile defense systems, such as Iron Dome, are part of this policy. The country's intelligence service, Mossad, is considered one of the most effective intelligence organizations in the world. The country's water policy is also remarkable. Despite its scarce water resources, Israel is a world leader in seawater purification and water-saving technologies. These technologies are also a model for other countries in arid regions. Israel's cultural life is quite rich. Various traditions from the Jewish diaspora have shaped modern Israeli culture. There are many Israeli artists known worldwide in the fields of literature, music, cinema, and visual arts. Writers such as Amos Oz and David Grossman have an important place in world literature. Israel has also achieved significant success in the fields of science and education. The number of Nobel Prize-winning scientists is one of the highest in the world in proportion to the population. Institutions such as the Weizmann Institute, Technion, and Tel Aviv University are world-renowned research centers. However, the conflict with the Palestinians remains Israel's biggest problem. Jewish settlements in the occupied territories, the situation of Palestinian refugees, the status of Jerusalem, and security issues are still to be resolved. Israel's settlement policy in the West Bank is considered illegal by the international community and undermines hopes for a two-state solution. There are also various social and political problems within Israel. Issues such as tensions between secular and religious groups, socioeconomic differences between Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews, and the situation of Arab citizens of Israel occupy the country's agenda. In particular, the exemption of ultra-Orthodox Jews from military service and the fact that they live on state benefits cause discomfort in the secular sector. Israel's relations with its neighbors have also changed over time. Peace treaties have been signed with Egypt and Jordan, and diplomatic relations have been established with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco in recent years. However, tensions with countries such as Iran, Syria, and Lebanon persist. In particular, Iran's nuclear program and its support for proxy forces in the region are a major source of concern for Israel. Israel's future will be shaped by the course of the peace process in the region, domestic political developments, and global geopolitical balances. The resolution of the Palestinian conflict, tensions with Iran, regional stability, and internal social cohesion seem to be the most important issues facing the country. In conclusion, the history of Israel is a complex story that stretches from ancient times to the present day. Intertwined with religious, cultural, and political factors, it is closely linked to the history of the region and the rest of the world. In the 75 years since its establishment, Israel has faced many challenges and achieved significant successes, but still faces many unresolved problems. In this video, we have tried to give an overview of Israel's history. Of course, it is difficult to cover such a complex subject in a single video. If you want more detailed information about specific periods or events, we can focus on these topics in our future videos. I hope this video has helped you understand the history of Israel. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos, please write in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you liked it. See you in the next video. Bye.